I had night blindness, and on our wedding night, my husband went to be with his ideal first love, letting his best friend take his place in bed with me. They thought I was none the wiser, but they had no idea I had already recovered. Hearing the bedroom door open, I stepped out of the bathroom, toweling my hair. "Darling?" I saw my husband's friend, Lucas, frozen in place. I clearly saw his Adam's apple bob. I reached out, groping forward, pretending I couldn't see. Lucas rushed over and caught me. I let my hand glide over his chest, feeling his defined muscles, and he pulled me into an embrace, kissing me passionately, overwhelmingly. My silk chemise, which I had just put on, was torn off and fell to the floor. With a spin, we tumbled onto the bed. He kissed me so fiercely I could barely breathe. I only managed to breathe freely the moment his lips moved to my neck. Just as things reached a crucial point, he suddenly stopped, rolled over, and lay beside me. I reached out to touch his abs. "Are you tired from today?" He still didn't say a word, so I asked again. "Darling, could it be that you can't perform?" As soon as I finished speaking, he rolled back on top of me, breaking through the last barrier. I let out a soft cry of pain. As if afraid of hurting me, he softened his movement slightly. But once a man gets a taste of intimacy, he can't stop. My waist and legs certainly suffered. It wasn't until nearly dawn that he went into the bathroom. The sound of the shower filled the room, but I was too exhausted to open my eyes. I vaguely felt him gently brush the stray hairs from my forehead and press a kiss there. When I woke up, I was alone in the room. I picked up my phone and saw it was already 11:46 a.m. I opened my unread messages. "Jerk. I saw you were still sleeping this morning. Didn't have the heart to wake you. Some issues came up at the overseas branch and the board of directors ordered me to go to Crestwood for a month-long business trip. Take care of yourself this month. I'll miss you." I sneered. A business trip was merely his excuse. In reality, my so-called newlywed husband was off on a honeymoon with his ideal first love. Just yesterday, right after the wedding ceremony, I went to the dressing room to change into a cocktail dress. When I came out, I overheard my groom, Daniel, chatting with his friends. One of them said, "Daniel really knows how to have fun. Just got married here and is already off on a honeymoon." When I woke up, I was alone in the room. I picked up my phone and saw it was already 11:46 a.m. I opened my unread messages. "Jerk. I saw you were still sleeping this morning. Didn't have the heart to wake you. Some issues came up at the overseas branch, and the board of directors ordered me to go to Crestwood for a month-long business trip. Take care of yourself this month. I'll miss you." I sneered. A business trip was merely his excuse. In reality, my so-called newlywed husband was off on a honeymoon with his ideal first love. Just yesterday, right after the wedding ceremony, I went to the dressing room to change into a cocktail dress. When I came out, I overheard my groom, Daniel, chatting with his friends. One of them said, "Daniel really knows how to have fun. Just got married here and is already off on a honeymoon overseas." Hearing this, my lips curved into a smile. Just as I was about to walk towards them, I heard Lucas's voice. "If you have your ideal first love, why would you still marry Chloe?" His ideal first love. My heart clenched, my foot already lifted. I couldn't take another step. Daniel had his back to me, his hands in his pockets and a nonchalant expression as he said, "Isabella is my first love. Who could ever forget their first love? Since she came back to me, of course I should be happy. As for Chloe, she's family-oriented, values relationships, and is a very suitable wife. She's highly educated and a high-ranking executive at Pendragon Corp at such a young age. She secured big contracts for me, greatly helping my career. But I can't lose Isabella either, so I'll just have a wedding first to give Chloe a sense of security." My phone chimed with a message notification. "My love, you worked hard today, my dear. Something urgent came up at the office. I need to go handle it. You should go back and rest first." If I hadn't witnessed firsthand him and his friends brazenly discussing his ideal first love and his plan to abandon me, I might have truly believed he loved me. It turns out he was only after my executive position. The irony was immense. What he didn't know was that I wasn't just a high-ranking executive at Pendragon Corp. I was also the sole heiress. I immediately changed his contact name from My Love to Jerk. I casually replied, "You go ahead and handle it then." Daniel boastfully showed his friends the message page with my reply. "See, I just have to casually mention an urgent company matter, and she dutifully and understandingly tells me to go handle it myself." He patted Lucas's shoulder. "Buddy, tonight's all yours." He walked away with light steps, and the others also clamored to return to the banquet for drinks. I immediately sent a message to Dad. "Dad, cancel the scheduled investment for Daniel's company, Apex Ventures, tomorrow." Dad called to ask what happened. I briefly explained the reason and told him I'd go home tomorrow for the full details. Originally, I had planned to take Daniel to the Pendragon estate after the wedding today to reveal my true identity to him. He was close to hitting the jackpot, getting Pendragon's backing, which, as he said, would greatly boost his career. Now I should truly thank him for saving me from that fate. My thoughts returned to the present. I dialed Daniel's number. Just as I expected, his phone was off. He must have thought the investment would go through today. And using the excuse of our wedding and honeymoon, he was openly honeymooning with his ideal first love overseas. He was so arrogant. I couldn't wait to see his face a month from now when he returned and found out the project fell through. I got ready, changed into a sweet dress, and went to the parking garage, walking towards a convertible sports car. This was originally a wedding gift I had planned to give Daniel today, for him to drive when we went to register our marriage. Now it seems some people are destined to never amount to anything significant in this life. I drove the sports car back to the Pendragon estate. Margaret, the housekeeper, had just finished setting up lunch and said, "Miss is back." I nodded. My parents, hearing Margaret's voice, walked over from the living room. Mum immediately hugged me. I gently patted Mum's back. "Mum, I'm fine." Dad simply watched us embrace. When he let go of me, Dad said, "Let's eat first." Mum nodded. Yes, let's eat first. Today I had Margaret make all your favorite dishes." During the meal, Mum kept putting food on my plate, saying I had gotten thin living alone. After getting together with Daniel, to spare his ego and test his character, I bought a spacious apartment. He claimed he couldn't afford a marital home because he hadn't succeeded in his venture yet. So he suggested we use my spacious apartment as our marital home for the time being, promising to buy me a mansion when he made a lot of money later. Mum, still putting food on my plate, cursed, "That jerk." Luckily, he was so arrogant, or else my Chloe would have truly been wronged. Dad said, "Since you broke up with him, move back home." Mum agreed. "That's right, Chloe. Out there all alone, I had me worried sick. That jerk just abandoned you yesterday. If you hadn't stopped me, I would have personally gone to the airport with people to intercept him and beat him up." I shrugged. "Mom, this just shows he wasn't fortunate enough to become your son-in-law." Mum nodded. "That's true." I won't move back for now. He still thinks I'm kept in the dark, believing he'll definitely secure the investment today and hit the jackpot. If I'm going to act, I might as well go all out. I looked at Dad. "Dad, let's set my inauguration as CEO for a month from now." Hearing this, Mom's eyes lit up. "You finally came to your senses. You should have directly taken over as CEO in the first place, but you insisted on gaining experience in the marketing department. The mere position of director of marketing is hardly worthy of my daughter." That evening, I returned to the apartment I had bought. After I finished showering and came out of the bathroom, I saw Lucas sitting on the small sofa in the bedroom again. I pretended to reach out in front of me. My foot slipped and I gasped. Lucas darted over and caught me by the waist. I tentatively called out, "Darling?" I saw him swallow. He scooped me up in his arms and placed me on the bed, then turned and went into the bathroom. The rushing sound of water came from inside through the glass shower door. I vaguely saw his silhouette as he showered. I found it amusing and felt like teasing him. I walked outside the bathroom, opened the door, and my gaze fell on Lucas's abs. He was clearly startled. "Darling, didn't you say there were issues at the overseas branch and you were going on a month-long business trip?" My answer came when he pulled me toward him. The showerhead above us continued to stream down his back as he kissed me passionately. My silk camisole slipped to the floor, and with a spin, we tumbled into the bathtub, sending up a huge splash. When I woke up, Lucas was already gone. Over the next month, Lucas appeared promptly every night, spending every night with me. The month flew by, and Daniel should be returning to the country with his ideal first love. I specifically went to the airport to pick him up. I saw him in the distance pushing his luggage with his ideal first love, Isabella, clinging to his arm. Smiling sweetly, they walked along, chatting and laughing all the way, looking every bit like a married couple. I picked up my phone and took a photo of the scene.
As I approached, Daniel finally saw me. Startled, he quickly pulled his arm away from Isabella's hand and hurried towards me. "Chloe, why are you here?" Isabella glared, looking at me provocatively from behind him. I smiled, pretending not to notice. "You said you'd be on a business trip for a month, and I thought today should be about time. I didn't know what time your flight was, so I just roughly checked the flights returning from Crestwood. The arrival times were around these few hours. I didn't expect to be so lucky and catch you right after I arrived." I certainly wasn't going to tell him that I had investigated his flight information and deliberately waited for him at this time. Daniel nodded. "Oh, so that's how it is." My gaze then fell on Isabella as she approached, and I looked at Daniel quizzically. "And who is this?" Daniel said, "This is Isabella, a former classmate from college. She happened to be on the same flight as me. We met when we got off the plane. I saw that a woman carrying so much luggage might find it inconvenient, so I offered to help her with them." I nodded. "Is your phone still off?" He seemed to just remember he had a phone. He took it out and said with a remorseful expression, "Sorry, Chloe, I was too busy in Crestwood, so my phone was off the whole time." I stared at the dark circles under his eyes. "Yes, I can tell you've been quite busy." So busy. He's been very busy. I couldn't help but think of Lucas's face. He also spent every night passionately with me for an entire month, yet he had no dark circles under his eyes. A man who clearly has endless stamina. Daniel pulled out his phone, and as soon as he turned it on, it started dinging nonstop. He frowned, looking at dozens of missed calls from the company, and muttered softly, "Isn't this supposed to be in the bag? Why are they still contacting me about company matters?" I pretended I hadn't heard clearly. "What did you say?" He smiled and shook his head. "Nothing. I was just saying I've been quite busy with the overseas business trip, and I didn't expect them to still need me for things back home." He immediately opened a voice message, and an enraged voice blared from the phone. "Daniel, what the hell are you doing? The investment fell through, so you just disappeared on me, huh?" Shocked, he quickly turned off the speakerphone and switched to earpiece mode. The more he listened, the darker his expression became. "What's wrong? You look unwell." Daniel couldn't be bothered with me at all. He turned to Isabella. "Isabella, go settle in on your own for now. I have something urgent to attend to and need to leave." Daniel took off running. Isabella dropped her sweet demeanor that she had in front of Daniel. She reached out to me. "My name is Isabella." I looked at her hand but didn't shake it. Instead, I nodded. Your name suits you perfectly. Such a perfect white lotus." Over the past month, I had already ordered someone to investigate Daniel and Isabella's past. Isabella was no mere former classmate. She was Daniel's childhood sweetheart. As for her appearance, she wasn't as innocent as her name suggested. She was the kind who looked older than her age. Probably, as they say online, women who have given birth tend to age faster. Daniel really isn't picky at all. People usually look for mistresses who are younger and prettier than their main wife, but he, of all people, found an older mistress. Isabella didn't get angry that I ignored her. She withdrew her hand and smoothed the stray hairs from her forehead. To tell you the truth, Daniel didn't go on a business trip this past month. He was on a honeymoon with me. We went to several countries, and he kept calling me baby and clinging to me every day. Isabella grinned triumphantly. I frowned in disgust. He really isn't picky." She wanted to see me angry, but my calm reaction infuriated her. "By the look of you, you already knew." I spread my hands. "So what if I did? I'm the only one he's ever truly loved. What does it matter if he had a simple wedding with you? As long as you haven't registered your marriage, you're not his wife. I quickly waved my hand. Listen, lady, don't disgust me. Who wants to register a marriage with him? Since you two are so meant for each other, I wish you two deserve each other. May you be miserable together forever. Isabella's expression grew uglier, and I added, you two make sure you stick together and stay locked up and don't go ruining anyone else's lives. With that, I turned and walked away. Isabella was so furious, she stomped her feet. I turned off the voice recorder in my purse and drove to the hospital. Just as I retrieved my morning blood test results from the report machine, my phone rang. Caller ID, jerk. I glanced at the lab report.
The results showed increased progesterone levels, confirming pregnancy. I immediately blocked the jerk's number. Then he sent another voice message. Chloe, why can't I reach you? Why was Pendragon's investment canceled? Doesn't that mean all my hard work for so long was for nothing? I'm going to Pendragon right now. You people must give me an explanation, or else my team will be completely ruined. My phone rang again. This time, it was my real estate agent calling. I had listed my apartment for sale online. I swiped to answer. The agent's voice came from the other end of the line. Miss, the Peterson family has finished viewing your apartment. When would be a good time for you to sign the sales contract? They can sign now. If they want to move in, they can move in today. Just wait for me. I'll be right back. I first took the lab report to the doctor's office. After the doctor told me the fetus was healthy and asked me to come back in 2 weeks for an ultrasound scan, I drove back. The agent and the family buying the apartment were sitting in the living room waiting for me. As soon as I walked in, the agent quickly stepped forward. Miss, you're back. This is the sales contract drafted according to your requirements. The Peterson family has no issues with the price. If you agree, would you like to sign and complete the transfer paperwork? Mrs. Peterson said, Miss, your apartment is so well designed and still so new. Are you really willing to sell it at this price? I looked at the apartment. Indeed, I hadn't lived in it for more than a few months. I took the contract directly from the agent's hand, signed 2 copies, and handed them to Mrs. Peterson. Mrs. Peterson then smiled with satisfaction. Mr. Peterson was also a straightforward person. He immediately transferred the money. I took out $10,000 in cash from my purse. This is your commission, Alex. Alex was beaming with joy, calling me Miss repeatedly. The transfer procedures are in your hands. You can move in today. With that, I left. Alex repeatedly assured me, Don't worry, Miss. I'll handle it quickly. As soon as I returned to the Pendragon estate, the jerk's barrage of voice messages started again. What on earth are you doing? Why can't I reach you? I went to Pendragon to find you, but the front desk wouldn't let me up. I went to home to find you, and a man answered the door. He even had security guards kick me out of the neighborhood. What have you been doing behind my back this past month while I was away? Why did that man say it was his house? The reason I hadn't blocked him on WhatsApp yet was that I wanted to see his reaction when he found out I had sold the apartment. Seeing that I was ignoring him, he softened his tone and sent another message. Chloe, you know how important the collaboration with Pendragon is to me. As a marketing director, you can't possibly not know the reason. As I drank the special health tonic Margaret had just stewed, he called me via video. I answered. I was in the mansion eating my special health tonic. I saw Daniel's grim expression. You finally decided to answer. Where are you? Why was the promised investment from Pendragon canceled? Do you know this is a huge disaster for me? Everyone on my team lost their jobs because the investment didn't materialize. Even I have to bear the company's losses. I continued to eat my special health tonic. Bite by bite. Daniel finally showed his ugly true colors. Did you latch onto some rich guy while I was on my business trip overseas? I swallowed the last mouthful of special health tonic, looked up at the jerk on the screen. You kept rambling on and on. Which part do you want me to answer? He finally quieted down, waiting for my reply. Daniel, were you really on a business trip overseas this past month? He visibly relaxed. Chloe, how could you ask such a thing? Didn't I tell you some issues came up at the Crestwood branch, so I went to handle it? Since you say it was a business trip, then how did throughout this entire month you were unaware that Pendragon had not invested? Did you cut off all contact with the company while on your trip? Then please tell me, how did you cooperate with the company's work?
Daniel clearly hadn't thought about how to answer this question. After all, he thought the investment was a sure thing, and this was a blatant slap in his face.
He said, "So you manipulated things, didn't you? Why would you do that? I'm your husband. What good would it do you if my career declines?" I quickly held up a hand. Hold on. We only had a simple wedding ceremony. We haven't even met each other's parents, let alone registered our marriage. So at most, I can say I was blind to agree to date you for a few months. Daniel gritted his teeth in fury. "Chloe, do you think just because you ruined our collaboration, I won't have any other opportunities? Someone higher up at Pendragon must have taken an interest in my project for them to agree to invest before. I heard Pendragon's new CEO takes office tomorrow. Even without you, I can still secure investments." I nodded non-committally. "Then, I wish you success." I ended the video call and deleted his contact. Mom returned with the stylist. "Chloe, come. It's time to get styled. Look at these gowns Mom picked for you. They're sure to stun everyone." I looked at the gowns being wheeled in. They were all very eye-catching. "Mom, I'm just taking over as CEO, not entering a beauty pageant. And most of the company employees already know me, so it doesn't need to be so elaborate, does it?" Without another word, Mom picked up a white, diamond-encrusted, form-fitting gown and held it against me. "This one makes my Chloe look elegant, but it's missing something." She then picked up a red strapless gown and held it against me. "This one makes my Chloe's fair skin, beauty, and long legs shine. Wear this one first. We'll keep the others on standby." I nodded. "All right." I went to change into the red gown, and the stylist did my hair and makeup. When I arrived at the banquet hall, the company's executives and many business partners were already there. After the host gave a brief welcome and introduction, Dad went on stage. He said, "I'm delighted you all came to the banquet. Tonight, I am announcing that my daughter will formally take over as CEO of Pendragon Corp." The host beside him said, "A round of applause for our new CEO, please." I walked onto the stage in my high heels amidst the applause to stand beside Dad. My eyes immediately fell on Lucas, who was standing very close to the stage. Why was he here? A brief flicker of surprise crossed my mind before I took the microphone the host handed me. "Hello, everyone. I'm Chloe Pendragon. From now on, I will be taking over as CEO of Pendragon Corp. I hope you will all be supportive in the future." Someone in the audience said, "Isn't that the director from Pendragon's marketing department? It seems the president has been training at the grassroots level. The chairman really knows how to raise a daughter, to cultivate such an outstanding daughter who, at such a young age, can serve as the group CEO." Some partners in the audience had already begun to offer their compliments. Dad's face glowed with incredible pride. "When she first returned to the country, I wanted her to take over as CEO, but she insisted on gaining experience at the foundational level first, so she could better understand the company. I simply let her do as she wished. That's why they say, like father, like daughter. The chairman is so impressive and his daughter is just as outstanding." Dad took me off stage to meet some partners I didn't recognize and some members of the board of directors. I could tell that some people were merely flattering Dad, and even some who resented someone so young taking over the group, but they were reluctant to make a scene with so many people around. I carried a glass of juice and followed Dad as he made a round of toasts. "I apologize. I'm not good with alcohol, so I'll substitute juice for wine. I hope you gentlemen will excuse me." A rather greasy-looking man offered me a glass of red wine. "Young people nowadays, how can you get by without drinking? The president will have many social engagements in the future. Refusing to drink would be disrespecting us, wouldn't it?" A hand reached out from in front of me and took the glass of wine with a slightly impatient tone. "She said she's not good with alcohol. Didn't you hear her?" I followed the hand with my gaze. Lucas had appeared beside me without me noticing. The greasy man glared at Lucas. "Who are you? What business is it of yours?" Lucas casually twirled the wineglass in his hand, his thin lips parting. "The forecast is bleak for your company." He paused, his sharp gaze fixed at the greasy man, then continued.
It's about to go bankrupt." The greasy man burst out laughing as if he had heard the most ridiculous thing. "Ha ha! Who do you think you are? An alpha CEO? You must what? Watch too many TikTok videos? You just say bankrupt and it happens? Do you know who I am? Do you know my company's capabilities?"
Lucas took out his phone and pressed a few buttons. The greasy man thought he was showing off and waited, clearly expecting a show. Seeing Lucas put his phone back in his pocket without any further action, the greasy man spread his hands. "That's it? Nothing more?" Lucas casually tugged at his tie. 3, 2, 1. As one dropped, the greasy man's phone suddenly rang. His smile vanished. He pulled out his phone to answer, and his face instantly turned ashen. He looked at Lucas in disbelief. After hanging up, he still hadn't recovered. "Who exactly are you?" Lucas ignored him. Instead, he extended a hand in a gentlemanly gesture to me. "May I have the honor of this dance, Miss Pendragon?" I took a step forward. With his current posture, my lips were just close enough to his ear. I whispered, "It seems you're quite an influential person. Husband." Lucas turned his head in shock, his lips brushing against mine slightly. I quickly pulled away. Ignoring his shock, I walked out. As soon as I exited the main lobby entrance, I saw Daniel and Isabella being stopped by security guards. Isabella was dressed to the nines, arm in arm with Daniel, arguing with the security guards, trying to sneak into the banquet. The security guards asked them to leave, citing that they didn't have invitations. Isabella saw me first. She said, "Isn't that the Miss?" Daniel's gaze also fell on me. Daniel immediately pointed at me. "I am her husband. If she can go in, why can't I?" The security guard looked back at me and immediately became respectful. I raised my hand and said, "I don't know them." The security guard's expression towards them became more serious. "Sir, you cannot enter without an invitation. Please leave immediately." Daniel's eyes widened in frustration. "Chloe, are you really going to be so heartless? You won't let me in because you're afraid you'll meet your new CEO, afraid he'll take an interest in my project and reinvest?" I nodded. If you think your project is so excellent, why are you stubbornly clinging to Pendragon? You can go find other companies to secure investments." I shrugged. I couldn't describe how satisfying it was to see the jerk so anxious and irritated. Daniel was speechless with fury at my words. Isabella said, "Yes, Daniel. I think what she says isn't unreasonable. Your project is so excellent. Pendragon is short-sighted. I saw in a business magazine that the young master of the Sterling Group in Northwood is returning. Sterling also has a branch office here in Harbor City. If your project can get the attention of Sterling, wouldn't that be an even more powerful backer?" Daniel's eyes immediately lit up. He clearly thought Isabella's proposal was excellent. He grasped Isabella's hand. "Isabella, I knew it. Having you is my good fortune." Isabella leaned against Daniel's shoulder, wearing a triumphant expression. I clapped my hands. You two truly are a match made in heaven. Or rather, Daniel and Isabella, doesn't that sound like a manipulative white lotus and a whole pond of fools to choose from? How fitting. Isabella's expression shifted slightly, and Daniel's face was also quite grim. "Chloe, don't talk nonsense. I've told you Isabella is just a former classmate. Isabella and I are innocent and pure. Why do you insist on having such a filthy mind?" Even the security guard couldn't stand it. "You keep saying you're our president's husband, so why is your female companion this older mistress?" To be called an older mistress, even by the security guard, Isabella's expression changed drastically. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. I gave a thumbs up to the security guard. "Well said. Your monthly salary is doubled." The security guard nodded at me. "Thank you, President." President and director. Just one word different. Daniel didn't notice it at the moment. He glared at me angrily. "Chloe, what do you mean by this? You're just letting your company's flunky insult Isabella?" I spread my hands. Such a perfect white lotus, with such obvious wrinkles on her face. She's probably more than a decade older than you are, isn't she?
Isabella frantically touched her face. Despite her heavy makeup, it still couldn't conceal her laugh lines and crow's feet, especially since she was already a few years older than Daniel. Isabella's eyes were already brimming with tears. Daniel, I can't compare to Mrs. Pendragon's youth and beauty. You should just forget about me with that. She covered her face and ran off. Isabella? Daniel called out to Isabella's retreating back. Isabella didn't look back, covering her face with one hand and clutching her gown's hem as she ran out. He looked at the sky growing darker outside, a flicker of cunning in his eyes. He turned back to me.
My business trip right after we got married is between us. Why are you taking it out on Isabella? Why are you involving the project? I glanced at the darkening sky outside, knowing he wanted to stall for time, waiting for it to get dark to use my night blindness against me. I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. First, you should take a long, hard look at yourself. Second, your ideal first love is only 6 years older than you. So why does she look like she's 16 years older? I gasped and covered my lips. Oh, I heard women who have given birth tend to age faster. Could it be that your ideal first love had children with someone else overseas and then came back to make a sucker out of you? I looked at the top of his head as if I could already see that he had been cuckolded. No wonder your head has become a vast green pasture. Daniel's face turned indescribably ugly. He seemed to look past me and saw someone. He called out, "Lucas, come here and help me explain. I was on a business trip to Crestwood this past month, but Chloe misunderstood." Lucas walked over, glancing thoughtfully at the top of Daniel's head. It certainly looks like a vast green pasture. I couldn't help but scoff, and Daniel's face grew even uglier. Daniel glared at Lucas in dissatisfaction. "Lucas, what are you saying?" "Nothing. I just happened to see some photos. The person in the photos looks quite similar to your older mistress." As he spoke, he actually turned his phone screen towards Daniel. I glimpsed what was displayed on the phone screen. Intimate photos of Isabella with various men overseas, and even her overseas marriage certificate. One photo was particularly graphic. It was her in a bikini with 3 men. Suddenly, Lucas raised his hand and covered my eyes. "The images are too filthy. Don't stain your eyes." I heard Daniel's hysterical voice. "This is fake! These must be photoshopped pictures. Isabella couldn't be this kind of person." Lucas replied cooperatively, "Perhaps they're fake, but judging by the dates and locations, they were taken during the years she was overseas and out of contact with you." Then Daniel suddenly fixed his gaze at Lucas and me, a suspicious look on his face. "You two?" I immediately linked my arm with Lucas's. Lucas's face showed a look of pleasure. I stared at Daniel and said, "Isn't this the groom you personally sent to my bed?" Daniel's expression changed drastically. He furiously grabbed Lucas. "Bastard! Who told you to touch her?" His fist was about to strike, but Lucas retaliated with a punch that sent him to the ground. I told the security guards to ignore them and walked out. As soon as I arrived at the parking garage, several men dressed like thugs blocked my way. One of them whispered to Scarface, who was next to him, "Boss, it should be dark outside now, right? This woman doesn't seem like she can't see." Scarface sized me up, and I sized them up. Scarface said, "Maybe it's not completely dark yet." Another man rubbed his hands together in anticipation, constantly licking his lips, and said with a lecherous expression, "Don't even mention it. This woman truly has the legendary fair skin, beauty, and long legs. She's really going to be an easy target." I looked past them and saw Isabella's gown's hem peeking out from behind a pillar ahead. "Do you know who I am? How dare you block my path?" The man beside Scarface said, "Aren't you just a pretty blind woman who can't see at night? It's your privilege to play with us guys." My gaze swept over him. "Oh, you think I'm blind?" Under my stare, the man was visibly startled. He leaned closer to Scarface, still uncertain, and whispered, "She doesn't seem blind at all." I extended my hand, looking at my freshly manicured nails, and said calmly, "I'll give you one chance. Whatever you were told to do to me, go do it to her instead. Otherwise..." I looked at them and shook my head.
Daniel had told everyone he knew that I had night blindness, so Isabella even thought of using this to harm me. Too bad for them. What they didn't know was that I had competed in international martial arts competitions and was the women's division champion. Scarface laughed. Ho, ho, big talk. He smung a punch at me. I seized his wrist, and to his shock, his scream was ear-piercing. His minions were all bewildered. Boss, what's wrong? With a forceful twist, I broke his wrist and then kicked him away. Someone quickly rushed over to help him, and only then did their look in the eyes change. Instantly, someone else spotted Isabella trying to escape. Boss, that nasty woman is over there.
So, the group chased after Isabella again. As I drove out of the parking garage and rounded the corner, I saw Isabella being dragged into a corner, her mouth covered. Her struggling, unwilling reflection was in my rearview mirror, then vanished as my car turned. The next day, I changed into my business casual outfit. As I came downstairs ready to eat breakfast and head to work, I found the living room filled with various exquisite gift boxes. Lucas was chatting happily with Dad and Mom. The moment Mom saw me, she quickly came over, taking my arm and saying, "Chloe, you're up. Look, Lucas came to see you first thing this morning." I was baffled. Lucas had bruises at the corners of his eyes and mouth. Clearly, they were from his fight with Daniel yesterday. He stood up, his hands clasped in front of him, looking a bit helpless. "Chloe, I cut him off. Mr. Strilling, this game is over." Seeing my unfavorable attitude, Mom quickly said, "What's wrong, Chloe? You might not remember, but you used to love following Lucas around when you were little." I was baffled. How come I don't remember knowing Lucas when I was a child? Lucas looked as if he'd been terribly wronged. "It's all right, Auntie. I must have upset Chloe. That's why she's treating me this way. It's all my fault." I stared at Lucas, incredulous. He looked exactly like a child caught doing something wrong, standing there on the verge of tears but holding them back. Was this really the Lucas I knew? "Mom," I said, "how come I don't remember knowing him when I was little?" Mom pulled Lucas and me to sit down, one on each side. "Oh, I already told you. You probably just forgot. When your grandpa was still alive, his grandpa's house was next door to Lucas's grandpa's house. Lucas would stay at his grandpa's, and you'd follow Lucas around all day. You even played house and said you wanted to be his bride." Hearing Mom's words, Lucas quickly said, "Auntie, I'm here to fulfill a promise. To be honest, I've taken the liberty to disturb you today because I wish to ask for Chloe's hand in marriage from you and Uncle, and I hope you will approve of our union." As if realizing it might seem improper to come alone, he quickly added, "My parents are already on their way to Harbor City. By my estimation, they'll arrive shortly with the engagement gifts." The moment Mom heard Lucas was here to ask for my hand in marriage, her eyes lit up. Then, as if remembering something, she said with a slightly odd expression, "But my Chloe just broke up with that jerk. Would you mind?" Lucas shook his head emphatically. He even pointed to the bruises on his face, showing them off like trophies, and said, "Auntie, look, these bruises are from my fight with that jerk yesterday. He hurt Chloe so badly. If it weren't for the law, I swear I would have beaten him to death." Hearing him say this, Mom's eyes brightened even more. Exactly, that jerk is completely blind. Then she showed concern for Lucas's bruises. "Lucas, wait here. Auntie will go get you the first aid kit. You need to put some antiseptic on that. We can't have such a handsome face getting scarred." Margaret walked over and said, "Sir, guests have arrived." Dad said, "Please invite them in quickly." Margaret said, "Sir, perhaps you should go and see for yourself." I saw Lucas smile. He stood up. Mom had already returned with the first aid kit. "Hey, where are you going? Come on, Lucas. Let's put some medicine on that first." Lucas obediently sat back down. Just as I was about to go out with Dad to see,
Mom shoved the first aid kit into my hands. Here, Chloe. Lucas fought that jerk for you. It's only right that you apply the medicine. Without another word, Mom shoved the first aid kit into my hands and then followed Dad and Margaret out. Lucas looked at me with a perfectly innocent expression. Then, I'll trouble you, Chloe. I saw his lips twitching into a smile that he found hard to suppress. I took out a cotton swab, dipped it in antiseptic solution, and pressed it slightly hard on his bruise. The pain made him gasp. His eyes misted as he looked up at me and said, "Chloe, are you trying to murder your husband-to-be?" I frowned. "Don't talk nonsense. I haven't agreed to marry you." Just as I was about to turn away, he pulled me and I tumbled onto his lap. He leaned into my ear and whispered, "But every night you called me your husband." His warm breath on my ear sent shivers down my spine.